Welcome back to the Gen Z Speaks podcast.
Let's
dive right into it.
I'm Matt.
I don't want to tell who I am. They should know by now who I am.
Well, you should have introduced me.
They should
at
know
least.
who I am.
Introduce
what I stand
me.
for. My name is Ibrahim space Ahmed.
I call him Ebe.
With
Similar
me
to Abe.
is Matt space Gutierrez.
Almost got it wrong.
No, I didn't.
You got it
I
right.
didn't
but
even
almost
stutter.
got it wrong.
No, I didn't.
You almost said 1 R instead of 2.
I said 2 R's.
Okay, you did.
Let's dive right in.
Okay, dive.
What advice would you give to your 16-year-old self?
My 16-year-old self.
And what advice would you give to your 36-year-old self?
My 36-year-old self.
Yeah, 2-part question.
Okay, I'm gonna do in reverse order.
Okay.
36-year-old self. I know the answer. Don't get comfortable. That is my biggest fear. I think that's been my biggest fear since probably 16 years old. Probably around 16. So I think what happens when you get into your like middle age, right? I mean, this is what I've noticed at least. People start to get comfortable in where they're at, and they don't want to push for more. They don't want to be better, or they're cool with their family, cool with where they're living, cool with their work. And I just don't want that for myself. I think that there's more to life. That's why you keep pushing. You keep pushing. You only live this life one time. And I know I'm a 23-year-old saying that, but it's the truth. You only live one time, and it's up to you to make this world better.
So don't be comfortable.
Yep.
What about 16-year-old self?
16-year-old self, eh? I would say, what would I tell my 16-year-old self?
Yeah.
I would say you know what I would say? So a teacher one time told me this, Mr. Drago. You remember Mr. Drago? It was our world
Taught us.
history. And
Freshman year.
yeah, I kind of laughed about it when he told me this because he wrote this in my yearbook, actually. He said, Matt, you're a great kid, but learn to stop and smell the roses.
Really?
Yeah. And I laughed. I was like 14. I was 14. I was like, whatever. What is this?
He
like,
said that in your yearbook?
Yeah, you put them in my yearbook.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really deep. Say
I
it one more
know.
time in
He
case
said-
someone missed it.
He said, you're a great kid, but you need to learn how to stop and smell the roses.
Wow.
And now I guess looking back on it and just having conversations with my friends and such, I think that would have been good advice. School isn't so integral, honestly. Like, I think that's super true. I didn't have to spend all my time thinking about school and clubs and doing all this. I rarely spent time in high school, I think, going out with friends, enjoying my youth, building a foundation of like enjoyment of myself.
What made him say that to you?
I don't know.
What made your 9th grade history teacher
Yeah.
tell you stop and smell the roses
You
along
know-
the way?
Honestly, I wasn't super close with Mr. Drago. That's the funniest thing. But I mean, I know I would have my like moments. Like I remember you were in my history class, right? And he was asking us one time, I think in the beginning of the year, what do you guys want to be when you grow up? And I said I wanted to be the CEO of Apple, and that was my answer. And so I'm sure I had like little snippets of anecdotes or something like that. And obviously, no other 14-year-old is having answers like that. That's kind of a strange thing. But,
Specific answer like that?
yeah, very specific.
Maybe there's some other kid out there.
There are, and you guys should not listen to people, and you should pursue. Because do you remember what everyone did when I said that?
What did they do?
Everyone laughed in that class, dude.
Really?
I remember this. Everyone laughed. I remember one kid was like, CEO of Apple, more like CEO of McDonald's, as if that was an insult, but to a 14-year-old
Yeah, that's
kid.
actually pretty cool.
It's a cool
CEO
thing. CEO of McDonald's. Thank you. I'll take that too.
Wow, so that's
But
a
yeah.
distinct memory in your head.
Oh, yeah.
The kid's laughing. This one kid says CEO of McDonald's.
Yeah. And I remember
Interesting.
And I remember what I was thinking. I was like, these guys are all idiots. They have no idea what they're talking about.
So you recognize that what they're saying
Yeah.
is stupid.
100%, dude. I was honestly, we've talked about it. I think I was an arrogant kid. And so I always just felt like I was better than them. Like, because even my train of thought was better than theirs. And I was able to recognize that. Maybe it wasn't a good way to think, but that's definitely true.
So you had a Donald Trump mentality.
Had a
as a
little more than a
14-year-old.
Donald Trump mentality.
So
Yeah.
wait a second. So what did you say back to Mr. Drago when you saw that on your yearbook? Did you like ask him what made you say that, or you slept on it?
Slept on it.
Really?
Yeah, because I feel like people had told me that, maybe not in that specific way, but people told me that a lot. Like they would say enjoy your childhood or slow down or like that song by Billy Joel. It's what is it called? Damn it, I forgot the song name.
Slow down.
You're growing. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, you crazy child. Yeah.
Slow down.
You
Yeah,
crazy
something like that,
child.
right? Yeah.
You're too ambitious for a juvenile. That song,
Yeah.
right? I got that. Like I heard that song my senior year of high school, and when I was a senior, I was looking back, I was like, everyone is telling me this. I don't know. I didn't put any pieces together, but I was like, everyone's been telling me this, and I said that this is like in my head, I was like, this is my anthem kind of thing. But
That
yeah,
song was your anthem.
yeah,
But the song is telling you you're too ambitious for a juvenile.
yeah, exactly. Because everyone's telling me this. Like Billy Joel is even telling me this.
Yeah, so you didn't ponder over like, hold on a second, maybe I need to take a step back.
I
Pump
just
the brakes.
felt so this was my thought process when I was young. Even I mean it still is now, but I think I'm stopping and smelling the roses. Like we travel a lot. Like I do things that I enjoy now, right? Before it was like my head was only in the headspace of if I get to success faster, I get to enjoy my life quicker, right? But I failed to realize that it's not only me in life. Like if it was up to me, I think I'd be further ahead, but other people hold you back. You have customers that maybe aren't such a strong customer and they can take off, or they have their own lives going on. I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
When Mr. Drago said that to you, nothing clicked in your head?
No.
You were just like, oh.
No, dude, I've been told
He
this
just
my
wants you
whole
to
life.
smell the school roses.
School, yeah, right. No, I've been told that my whole life, bro. Like all my family has always told me to slow down.
So when did it click for you?
It clicked for me, I think, when COVID hit.
So when you were what, 19, 20?
At 19. I think maybe 19, 20, something like that. Yeah.
So 5 years from when Mr. Drago told you.
Yeah.
It clicked finally.
Yeah.
Where were you? What happened when it clicked?
I think it was probably that summer.
2020?
2020. I think it was that summer. I started surfing more. I started doing outdoors things again, like I really enjoyed.
That's when you went skydiving?
Skydiving. There's just different things. I got to enjoy more experiences. I got to like really spend time doing things I enjoyed. And I realized like, why would I not spend time doing things I enjoy in my youth? And I started thinking about it. A lot of people, like my dad and his friends, they all like reminisce on their childhood and like the experiences they had. And I don't think I had many of those experiences yet. Like I had the backpacking to Thailand type thing. Other than that, I didn't have like anything that like I was super proud of saying. And now, like at 23 years old, I have so many experiences in the last 4 or 5 years that when I'm able to be proud of like telling stories and explaining like the things that I've done and been through.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy, huh?
That's interesting, man. But I don't understand how it didn't click for you. Everybody was telling you, slow down, relax.
Because in my head, I just thought I was better. I'm not like...
Man thought he was him. You're like, I am him.
It's stupid. It's literally arrogance and like maybe even ignorance because I was a kid, right? For whatever reason, I thought like I just knew better than them and that they aren't in a place that I want to be. And so why would I listen to that?
Interesting. Okay, that makes sense. You were judging the people who were giving you advice.
Yeah, I guess so.
You were like, if I were to follow what you're saying, I'll be in the same place that you are, which is not remotely close to where I want to be.
100%. Yeah. But it was first of all, I want to say this. That's not a bad framework to think by, but it is bad to be arrogant about it because I wasn't being a filter at all. I wasn't filtering their information at all and taking any truth because they had plenty of years of experience on me, right? So maybe there is truth to it. And I think just as maturity comes, and you get older, you mature a little bit and you're able to think a little stronger. You realize that everybody has experience and everybody has truth in their words because they wouldn't be where they are if they hadn't lived their own experiences, right? And so I think if I just was able to take a step back and realize that there is truth to what they're saying, I would have learned a little quicker.
Interesting.
But I still live by that framework. I still do my best to not take advice from people that aren't in a place that I want to be because that'd be stupid. It just would be.
But why are you looking at it from a one-dimensional lens?
Meaning?
Like, somebody's giving you advice about couches,
Yeah.
and they're homeless, would you not take the advice?
I would honestly. I'm the type of person I hear people out like
Yeah.
legit. If they don't know anything, I still listen. I don't know. I just
What a
do.
terrible example I gave, by the way.
Oh, like
A
whatever.
homeless person giving advice on couches.
I've heard homeless people give out advice like on owning your own business. I've literally heard this.
Really?
Like, because I worked in a homeless shelter for like 6 months, right?
You did?
Yeah,
What?
in college.
You worked at a homeless shelter?
Yeah,
I didn't know this.
2 or 3 days a week for like 6 months.
Really?
Yeah,
How was that?
it was terrible. That's probably where my like beginning of like not hatred but like resentment against homeless people began.
Hold on. Why do you hate homeless people?
No, I don't hate homeless people, but I have
You just said
some, like-
resentment.
yeah, some resentment.
Why? Why do you resent homeless people?
Because I think that's where it started, dude. Like when I started realizing you need to filter information, these people are the epitome of like very arrogant. Like when you talk to homeless people, like I mean, obviously I haven't spoke to every homeless person on this planet, but I've talked to probably over 50 to 100 homeless people, and every single one shared a single characteristic, is that they were arrogant and they thought that it wasn't their fault for where they are in life. One guy tried telling me, which I don't know if it's true or not, but if you're logical about it, it just doesn't make sense. He told me that he went to University of Chicago for culinary school, and that he was a head chef at a five-star
Michelin star.
Michelin star restaurant in New York, right? And it's like, okay, maybe he was. I don't know.
So he was the bear.
He was the bear, except he didn't start his own restaurant. He just worked at
Well, the
the
bear did
restaurant.
that too in the beginning.
Yeah, in the
remember?
beginning.
Yeah.
So, and this is just one example. This is a very common theme. And
Really?
these guys all tell me like, oh, I was a consultant. Oh, you can join. And one guy told me that I should join the Freemasons in my local jurisdiction, and that they'll help me get my business started faster.
Freemasons?
Yeah.
What is that?
A Freemason is basically a cult. That's basically what the Freemasons are.
So he was telling you join a cult
Yeah.
and then get a job through them.
That they'll basically what he was saying is they're like an organization that help each other out. And so if I start a business and I join the Freemasons, all the Freemasons will start helping me out.
So you worked at a homeless shelter for 6 months.
Yeah.
You talked to about what, 100 homeless people?
Probably, maybe more.
Maybe
But,
more.
yeah.
You said so probably let's say 100
100,
homeless
yeah.
people. And what was the biggest lesson that you learned from them? Or give me like two.
Like learn from them from what they're telling
Yeah,
me.
just like
or
from watching them, right?
Yeah.
Observing. Because
Yeah.
what were you doing specifically? Were you like
I was
passing out?
I was helping them find jobs. I was writing resumes for them.
Okay, so that's a
Yeah.
really important
Yeah.
job that you were doing for them.
For
you
them,
were
yeah.
helping them find a job.
Found one person a job, one lady.
You found one
Yeah.
lady a job. Good
Yeah.
job, bro.
Yeah.
job,
I
job,
know.
job.
Hopefully she's still strong at it, but
But so you were helping homeless people find a job
Yeah.
for 6 months. You talked to a lot of them. What did you learn from helping them out?
one thing I learned is that they have an expectation for other people to help them. That it's not like they're not very grateful for things that people are doing for them. Like for me as an example, it was like this is my duty. Like since I'm a kid or like since I'm there to help them out, it's my duty to help them, and that there's no like thankfulness that they should show me at all. Or maybe I don't even know what I'm doing and they can do my job better type thing. That's what I've learned from them.
Really?
Yeah.
All of them were ungrateful.
That lady wasn't. That lady was very grateful. But
So there were some grateful people.
there was one person out of the 100 people.
What?
Yeah. Everyone else like so I would have to kind of sell them on it too. Like they don't want to find a job. They just don't. I want to say probably about 85% of them didn't want to find a job. The reason they did it, the people that did do it, the 15 people that did it, the 15 people that wanted to come to us and like have us write them a resume, they did it because if they didn't do it, they would fall out of housing of that shelter
Okay, so where is this homeless shelter?
in Pomona.
In Pomona. So that's the Inland Empire.
And no, technically LA still.
Still LA?
LA County.
Okay, so city of Pomona.
Yeah.
Well, who was the homeless shelter under? Which jurisdiction? Do
I
you know?
want to say City of Pomona.
City of Pomona.
I'm not certain on that one. It's
Uh-huh.
been 5-6 years, but yeah.
Right. Interesting. You never told me that. I didn't know
Really?
that about you. Yeah, that you worked at a homeless shelter for
I think
6
I
months.
did. When we did the People of LA, I'm sure. It came
People of
up.
Los Angeles? No.
Because it was right before that I was doing it.
Really?
Yeah. That's why I was thinking about homeless. That's why I wanted to talk to the homeless people during that video.
Yeah. He's referring to a documentary we made about the city of Los Angeles called "The People of Los Angeles,"
Yeah.
where we interviewed people all over LA,
Right.
sports fans, restaurant owners, homeless people,
Club owners. Yeah.
everybody,
Everybody.
almost everybody. So, wow, bro, you hate homeless people still.
I don't hate homeless people, bro. I don't hate them, but I don't feel much sympathy for them anymore.
You don't feel
No.
sympathy.
There are some homeless people I do feel sympathy for, and those ones I don't know what it is, but I'll look into some of these guys' eyes, and I'll just feel like I'll feel their hurt, and so like those are the only people I'll help. But if I look at their eyes and I don't feel anything, I'm not gonna help
What?
them.
What is this?
I know it's weird, but that's yeah.
So you have to lock eyes with the homeless person.
I do.
And connect
lock
with them
eyes.
emotionally before you help them out. And you can tell their whole character by the way they look at you
No, I
in your
can't.
eyes.
But I don't know why, but that's just what I do.
What?
Yeah.
People look at, like how bad the situation is. This man just looks at their eyes.
And they're because you dude, what does Scarface say?
What did he say? Tell me.
It's all in the eyes, Chico. You can tell somebody by their eyes, bro. You can literally look in somebody's eyes and kind of tell their personality. I don't know it.
What if they're good at poker? What if they just have a poker face? They
Then
just don't want to
should
give
be
away.
multi-millionaires. They shouldn't be on the street.
So
Yeah.
do you think the reason why the people you encountered were ungrateful was because they didn't want to be there? Like they were just there because of the housing that the shelter provided? Is that why they were like, well, I'm kind of being forced into looking for a job, and if I don't, I'll
Yeah.
lose this housing, so this is just something I have to do as a formality?
For sure, majority of them wouldn't come back after we wrote the resume. We'd write the resume and they wouldn't come back for like a second interview or like types of jobs they'd be interested in doing, stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah, they would just have us write it, waste our fucking time, and then not come back at all. And then we would go find them because it's literally a shelter. There's a shitload of bunk beds, and we would go walk to these bunk beds, talk to each person. Majority of them would ignore us or snicker at us.
Really?
Like, yeah, I even think one person said something along the lines of, "Why would I do that? Why would I find a job?"
So did they get food at this shelter as well?
Oh yeah, everything: food, water,
How many meals?
shelter. I want to say 3, and they would get like snacks and stuff.
They got 3 meals?
I want to say so, yeah.
I don't even get 3 meals.
And they had free
What?
will too. They could leave, come and go as they please.
Really?
I think the one
There
thing,
has to be some conditions though.
I think the one condition was they had to try to stay clean.
So were a lot of them addicted to drugs at the shelter?
Yeah, and you could tell, like, yeah.
Would you say how many percentage wise? For like, let's say, let's keep the framework of you interacting with 100 homeless people.
Almost everybody looked like they were on something, bro.
They look like, so you don't know for sure.
I don't know for sure, but when I've been near, I have very close people that have been on stuff near me, and I can tell like when somebody's on.
It was
something.
similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think they landed into the situation that they were in? Was it because of drugs, you think, primarily, or was it because of a lack of motivation to find a job?
I think it's deeper than the drugs or motivation. I think it's their mindset and how they've grown up. I think it's literally that. I think it can end up as arrogance, like straight up. They just always thought that they knew the right answers and they didn't need help, right? And everyone does. That's something I learned like when I was in college and I realized, hey, maybe I don't know all the answers. Maybe people know more than me, and I'm able to, and I can start filtering stuff, right? That's when I realized if I stayed and I don't want to say like I was like this headstrong guy and like nobody could tell me what to do or anything like that, right? Because I think I've always been decent at like making good decisions. But when I realized that I can get further along by hearing people out and taking good info that they have and applying it to myself, I don't think they have that capability, or they choose not to have that capability.
Do you think we'll always have homeless people?
For sure.
So do you think the homeless epidemic that we see
Yeah.
in big urban cities like Los Angeles, do you think that's a result of government's failure or just the failure of people in a big city? Because it's just, do you think it's a numbers game? Because we have so many people, we're bound to have X amount of people on the streets.
I think it's one, a government thing and a society's thing. Well, we don't hold them accountable to their actions. Everyone makes mistakes in life, but it doesn't mean it's okay. Like, you still have to suffer consequences for things that you've done. Like, if you do drugs, yeah, sure, you can get help, and I hope you do get help, but you have to suffer those consequences, and you have to go through the heartache of going through withdrawals, of, you know, not choosing to do drugs again. And we can't be there. Like, society as a whole can't be there to say it's okay and pat you on the back. That's my personal
What do you mean it's okay?
perspective.
Like, what
It's-
are you referring to? Like, after, when they're
Yeah.
trying to quit.
Like, when they're
saying-
trying to quit, I think that the homeless association that's come about, there's a lot of programs, right, for homeless people, but they give needles. They can, even though drugs are illegal, heroin is illegal, they continue to give needles so they don't get infected, right? And so they don't die because they're sharing needles, basically, and they don't get AIDS. I don't think that's okay. They're choosing to do drugs. They're choosing this, right? They know what can happen. I understand when people are on drugs, they're not in the same headspace, but you don't have to be in a safe headspace to know that a needle going from one person to another person is going to give you AIDS or is going to give you HIV.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't
Yeah.
know. I haven't researched the problem of homelessness as much as I should.
Yeah.
I'm just a normal person who's observing whatever I see. So,
Mhm.
like, I haven't worked at a homeless shelter, so I don't know. But I am curious, how did they speak about their families? Because my biggest question always is, if somebody's homeless, how did their family let them get to the position that they're in? Because I think regardless of the situation a person is in, it's a family's job, like your mother or your father or
Yeah.
your sibling's job, or, you know, even close relatives to help you out.
Yeah.
And obviously there's boundaries there,
Right.
but I don't think you should ever give up on a family
No,
member.
I agree with you.
So how are they, when you talk to these people at this
Yeah.
homeless shelter, how did they speak of their family, or did you get to even talk to them about that?
Not a whole lot about that, but some people will go on tangents for 2 hours, right? And then they'll tell you their life story. And so a few of these guys, the consensus that I remember is that family forgot about them, that they don't want them in their life.
The family doesn't want this person.
That's what these people speak on. But you've seen the movie Beautiful Boy with Steve Carell?
Yes.
That
A
is
beautiful boy, yeah.
that's a great movie.
Yeah.
And it's very realistic, dude, with people like in families of drugs, basically, right? If you're in a family and somebody in your family is doing drugs, you can heavily relate to this movie because it's true. I'm telling you, man, a lot of this stuff, dude, people get so far into drugs, they don't want to admit that they were wrong. Because years go down, bro. When you're homeless sometimes, 3-5 years go down, and you, in your head, you don't have to say this out loud, but in your head, you can think back and you think, how did so much time pass me just because I wanted to fuck my life away and do drugs?
So you're saying they start blaming people close to them in their life.
100%.
Because when they reflect back in retrospect, they're
Yes.
like, I spent 7 years of my life being addicted to X, Y, and Z, and all those years are just gone now. But these people who were close to me, these people who call themselves family to me, they weren't there for me. So
Yeah.
it's like a false sense of reality.
It's a false sense of reality.
Interesting.
Exactly. They construct this reality in their head, and then it doesn't matter anymore. That
Yeah.
false reality becomes the truth because they're no
For
longer.
them.
Not even for them, for the people around them too, because their family is no longer in their life. Now they're around other like-minded people who also construct false realities. And so now they're in this little bubble of a bunch of people that construct these false realities, and it now becomes their truth. They're now the smartest people in this world because they all say they are.
So they band together. They're like, yo, you've been through the same thing I have, right? Everybody forgot about you.
Essentially.
Right. Okay, that's an interesting way to look at it. Look, I think
Yeah.
when someone loses housing, meaning like they're on the streets,
Yeah.
homeless pretty much, there's a lot of layers to it, right? A lot of the times it seems to be drugs. A lot of the times it seems to be mental illnesses.
Right.
Not related to drugs. Somebody just might be mentally ill.
Mhm.
But it seems to me they have some sort of medical condition that hasn't been addressed adequately. Like, I feel like a lot of them have problems that need to be addressed under a medical supervisory. And I think the government can only do so much. Like it's up to the families of these people as well to help them out. Because a government can give you money.
Yeah.
A government can give you temporary housing. A government can do a lot of things, but it can't fix your life.
No, it can't.
It can't fix
And
your
it
life.
shouldn't.
And it should not.
That's not the government's responsibility to fix you.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
It should be your own individual responsibility. I am just concerned that I think society, because homelessness is so rampant, we're putting too many expectations on the government, in my opinion.
I agree.
I agree the government should be doing a lot more. They have failed us 100%. But society, in terms of the way we look at this problem, to me it seems like we think that the government is supposed to solve homelessness, which I don't think the government can. I think all of us have to play a role.
Yeah.
All of us do.
It's a culture
in one way or another, yeah.
Our culture, I think our culture has failed homeless people, truly. Like
Our culture has.
Our culture has failed.
In what way?
In the way that we say it's okay. Like it's a norm in our lives now. Like in Los Angeles, it's a norm in our life. If you're living in a skyrise apartment, you go downstairs and you're going to see 13 guys, and one of them's going to be shooting up, one of them's going to be snorting something. And it's okay. We kind of like snicker about it now, right? And you go to your favorite restaurant, but it's not okay, right? Like the reason we think it's okay is because it's just been going on for so long. But if we address like, hey, there's an actual issue here, and the way we're trying to solve it is incorrect, now we have a new frame of thought, right? The frame of thought is these people need to take responsibility for their actions.
What can individual people do, normal people like us, to help with this problem?
That's the question. That's the question.
Well, I think it's electing better leaders, better politicians who look at this problem holistically, like holding politicians accountable, like going to your city council meetings, voicing your opinion. If 500 people show up to a city council meeting all saying the same thing, you best believe they're going to listen because their jobs are on the line. Politicians will always listen if you bring the noise. I think that happens, but I think you hit a really important point in terms of normalizing homelessness.
Yeah.
Because we just think it's a part of life, and it's not supposed to be.
It's not, yeah.
So the thing is, though, we don't have, like, we can give money to a homeless person, right? But does that really solve the problem? Like, long term, it doesn't. Maybe it'll help that person for the day, or maybe 2 days, or maybe a week. Yeah. But in the long run, bro, I don't have a solution to this. That's why I invoked the question. And I think we should invite people on the podcast who have worked in homelessness and, who have looked at both the administration side of it and maybe also been at the other end, like somebody who was a former homeless person. Yeah, I'm curious to see like how they overcame that.
Recover, yeah, for sure. And if you do recover, that's a beautiful thing, of course. One solution, I mean, it's a solution, but it's maybe not the best, right? Is we help these people. So I want to frame it like this, actually. In life, everybody has their place, right? And if you think about it in terms of in your family, right? In your family came from Pakistan, right? If your parents didn't take that burden of leaving, maybe not a posh life, right? But a decent life over there, and took that hardship into coming to America, maybe that would have been your decision, right? Maybe you would have had to done that for your kids in 20 years from now, right? So everybody has this place in life where they have to take on a burden. And so I want to frame it like this. Maybe it's the homeless people that are existing right now, and maybe it's their time to take on a burden. Because somebody has to take on a burden in order to progress in life. Does that make sense? You're saying
somebody has to sacrifice.
Yes.
So, but what are the homeless people sacrificing?
What I'm saying, what should be happening right now is they're sacrificing their easy lifestyle for future people to not be homeless. Like, for example, government subsidizes a lot of these guys, right? They give them phones, they give them housing, they give them stuff like this. Maybe we shouldn't do that at all. Because if we don't do that at all, what's going to happen?
Okay, so I see what you're suggesting now. You're saying cut off all government subsidies to homeless people. Basically. You're saying hold on, it's like I'm laughing because it's
aggressive.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
but you're saying
but it would
it's an interesting perspective that I haven't heard. So you're saying one way to solve homelessness is
Yeah.
if we cut off all government programs. Homeless people get zero subsidies,
Yeah.
and all shelters. Would that be included under your
With
perspective?
no, but contingencies, right? They have a job, and it's only like a month or two.
Okay.
And then because they have the job and because they're off of drugs, now they can afford an
So
apartment.
you're basically saying no free handouts.
No free handouts.
No free handouts. So
Yes.
you're actually so that's a more that's a better way, I guess. Even
Yeah.
though I disagree, but I frankly speaking don't know too much about this problem. But
Yeah.
I just want to analyze what you're saying. You're saying cut off all free government handouts. You can homeless shelters can still exist, but with aggressive contingencies. For example, you would have to vacate a specific shelter if you don't find a job in like a month or 2 months.
Exactly.
So there's a certain deadline to it.
Yeah.
And nobody gets a free ride. Nobody gets a free phone, basically, right?
Yeah,
like no one
that's
gets
exactly
anything that's free. You have to earn everything.
Earn everything.
And that's your perspective.
How was America built, bro? Meritocracy. The people that do good work are going to be the ones that succeed, right? And success is different in different people's eyes. But if we give free handouts, there's no meritocracy. Now it's low-key socialism, right? Everyone is getting the same types of things. And that's just not the way America should operate. We're a capitalist society. And so saying that, I think everyone should be held to the same standard.
I want to go back to a point that you brought up that I thought was really good. You
Yeah.
said some homeless people blame the people around them, their family, for
Mhm.
being in the position that they're in because when they look back at their life,
Yeah.
they don't want to admit to themselves that they lost 5, 7, 10 years.
Yeah.
And they start blaming other people. And then when they're at these homeless shelters, they meet other people that they're like, whoa, you have the same story as me. So they feel more empowered.
Yes.
And they feel more empowered to their false sense of reality and perception. And it goes back to our question. What I
Yeah.
asked was, what advice would you give back to your 16-year-old self, your
Yeah.
past self, and your future self? How do you perceive your last decade? Like, do you look at it in terms of I'm taking responsibility for everything that's happened to my life? Or do you think things could have been different if people around you were different? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, how proud are you of the 10 years and how much credit do you want to give to yourself versus like credit the people around you? If
I
that
see what
makes
you're
sense.
Dude, I've said this so many times. I wouldn't have a business if it wasn't for the people around me. I wouldn't be driving the car if it wasn't for the people around me. The mindset I have if it wasn't for the people around me. I can't take credit for anything. In my opinion, I don't think anybody can take credit for anything because it's the experiences in your life that the people around you give you for you to gain what you have, whether good or for bad, right? Now it's up to you to accept that or not, right? Like you can say, no, it's not true, but in reality, it is. Like for example, the last 10 years, I would say what I can take responsibility for is accepting people's advice and filtering it to my advantage. Like I don't know, I have this ability, or I don't want to say ability, but I guess ability to look at people's lives around me, see the good works that they're doing and the bad works that they're doing and the decisions that they've made to get there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm able to take that and say, hey, this is the good stuff. I'm not going to take the bad stuff, right? So I guess I can take responsibility of being a sponge and filtering information.
Okay.
That's about it, though.
So we've talked about regret on the podcast before. And we've talked about our biggest regrets and whatnot. What is something that drives you when you look at your past? Like when you look at the last 10 years, right? What is
Yeah.
something that comes up and you're like, interesting. How would I change this 10 years from now when I'm 36?
Man. I'm just a believer that if you make mistakes, don't make a mistake again. That's just it. Just admit if you have a fault, if you've made a mistake, and move on. Don't do it again. Because if you do it again, what's the definition of insanity? Making a mistake and continuously doing over and over and over again, right? Don't be insane. Just admit, hey, you're not perfect. Hey, Matt isn't perfect. Maybe I should have done this a different way. Maybe I should have ran this business a different way. And then do it. If that answer is working harder, then work harder. If that answer is putting more hours in, put more hours. And if that answer is taking a step back, maybe asking other people how they would do a certain thing, then do that, right? If you continue, I guess this runs back to the whole point of my take on this podcast, which I guess is arrogance, right? If you are in a position in life where you've made mistakes and you continue to do it, that is because you're too proud to admit that you don't know the answers. And if you're able to go ask other people that have already made these mistakes, or these people that maybe know something a little bit more than you, then you don't have to make these mistakes again.
Mm.
So my message to the audience and to my 16-year-old self is, don't be arrogant. Don't be prideful. That is probably the number one sin is pride, because you will not progress.
Pride is the devil?
Pride is the devil, dude. If you can't admit that you aren't perfect, you don't know all the answers, you will not progress. You're going to sit in the same place mentally for the rest of your life. Maybe success comes, because success comes in waves and you can get lucky. But mentally, family-wise, you're not going to be happy with yourself. Yeah.
J. Cole is right, man.
Yeah.
Pride is the devil. I think.
How about you, bro? How about you?
Hold on one second, but let me finish my train. I was gonna say, to your point, what I've learned is, this is actually a lesson I guess I realized from this book I read, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Bleep.
Yep.
By, what's the author's name?
Mark Manson.
Mark Manson. He says, you'll be so much more content and happier in your life if you take full responsibility for everything, for every single little thing.
Yeah.
Even if in the back of your mind you feel like, that was kind of this person's fault, you're like, you know what? No, that was actually my fault, because I put myself in that situation. I interacted with this other person. And I agree with that philosophy.
Yeah.
Once you take responsibility for every single little thing that happens in your life, it liberates you. It puts the power in the palm of your hands, and it makes you feel like you are truly a human with free will, and you can change your life right now.
Yes.
Doesn't need to be tomorrow, 10 hours later, the next month, or the next year. Right now, you have full liberty to change your life. So I agree that to get to that point takes a very profound level of humility. Like, to recognize that everything is your fault. You're basically saying you kept making mistakes, you kept failing, and now you're at a point in your life where you have decided to change yourself, because you realize only you yourself can change your future.
Yeah.
Nobody else can just give you whatever it is that you're seeking or wanting. And for me, in terms of what advice I would give to my 16-year-old self.
I want to add on to what you just said. Everyone gets stuck on their past. You notice that? People will sit there and they'll think about their past, and they think, oh, how am I going to recover? How am I going to recover? And they fail to realize that for us, we still have 60 years of our lives to live. Why are we going to get stuck on something? You got to move on. And why do you want your future to be stuck on a problem that you could do nothing about? Accept your issues, accept your faults, and be better. That's it. Casey Neistat has a tattoo. It says, do more and be better. Right? That's it. Do more, be better. That is the equation to success. That is the equation to life. That is it. There's nothing more to it.
Easier said than done, though. Because
Why?
Were you the one who was telling me this? You were saying some people get stuck up in certain eras of their life.
Yes.
Like, they still feel like they are in this era of their life. And they don't want to let go of that era.
But why?
Because they felt the happiest. The key is, I feel like you have to recognize, I feel like you just have to recognize your age. Like, with age, certain things change. And people don't want to embrace the now. I think that problem stems from not appreciating the current moment, whatever it is. Like, let's say you feel like you peaked.
Okay.
I think you should just continue living your life seeking the next peak. Like, not looking back at that peak.
That's right, yeah.
Making it seem like, okay, that was my ultimate highest moment. I'm never going to get to that, because that's just one version of a peak. A peak can mean different things in different states and different versions of life. In different, states, I mean. Like, in terms of age itself.
Yeah, I get it.
So I think it's, when people get stuck up in their past, people don't realize the best is yet to come.
Right.
The best is yet to come. The picture isn't complete. the movie is only over when you die.
Don't accept your peak. That's it, dude. Don't accept it. Why are you so stuck on being your best when you were 17 years old? Keep going. Be better. Do more. That's it. If you're accepting that your best was back then, you've done a disservice to yourself. That's just the reality of it.
In terms of what advice I would give to my
Yeah.
16-year-old self, I would tell him to do stand-up comedy. I don't know how I would tell my 16-year-old self, but when you start doing stand-up comedy, it just opens different wires in your brain to look at the world in a very interesting way. You look at the world through humor,
Yeah.
and that just makes everything so much more sensible. Like life just makes sense when you look at it through humor.
Yeah.
Like I feel like too many people take life way too seriously. They don't
Way too
see
serious.
the funny in things, like the funny in failing at something, the
Right.
funny at not being good, the funny at messing up saying something to a random person,
Yeah.
the funny in being awkward, the funny in being too nice. There's funny in every single little thing.
Yeah.
And I think doing stand-up comedy repeatedly makes you truly realize that. And so I started doing comedy when I was almost 22. So I would tell my 16-year-old self, do stand-up comedy. That's
How
the
do you
biggest
think-
advice I would give them.
How do you think your 16-year-old self would take that advice?
To do stand-up comedy? I didn't know it was a thing. Like, I always saw comedians,
Yeah.
right? I saw comedians, but I never saw that for myself. I was like, I don't think that's a real thing. Like, is that a profession that people actually pursue and put time and years in? Like,
Right.
that was not even a window of opportunity for me back then. I didn't know that, man.
If you knew it was an opportunity, though, how would you have taken it? Just like I'm saying in your mental state back then, because you're a different person than you
Yeah.
were when you're 16.
Honestly, I don't even know. I don't know. Maybe I would have looked at it arrogantly. I was like, no, I'm too, I don't know. I'm too ambitious for comedy. What am I going to do? Be a clown on stage or something like that? That might be
Yeah.
something my 16-year-old self would have said. And which reminds me, I'm actually being a hypocrite now because I'm glad everything happened at its time. Because I feel like everything that happens to you
Yeah.
in your current state in life, just embrace it. Take it in.
Right.
Be like, you know what? It happened for a reason. I am the person that I am because of it.
Yeah.
And just because this thing came to me later on doesn't make it less.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I should be grateful that it came to me when it came
When
to
it
me.
came, right.
Because maybe I was ready to embrace it at that time. Maybe
Yeah.
at 16 somebody told me about stand-up comedy
Uh-huh.
and I was like, what are you? Well, you think I'm a clown? You think like I look funny? What are you talking about? And
Yeah,
then I
yeah.
never looked at stand-up comedy ever again.
Right.
Maybe that window of opportunity would have closed in my mind. So I'm actually, in hindsight, I'm grateful that I didn't embrace stand-up comedy
Yeah,
at
yeah.
16 because it could have gone 1,000 different directions.
Do you remember why you started stand-up?
There's so many reasons, bro. I think
Okay.
I've talked about it on the
Well,
podcast.
the first time you did stand-up, what was the reason, the direct reason? I think you've told me this.
So there's multiple reasons. There's three. I can think of three main
Okay.
reasons. One, during COVID, when I was taking all these like film classes at USC,
Yeah.
I was writing different characters. In COVID, a lot of comedians took off. So I was seeing like guys my age doing comedy, and I was like, well, hold on a second. If these guys can do it, I
Yeah.
can do it, right? And I just got more. I just started seeing more of comedy during COVID, and then I
Okay.
saw a guy named Karan Menon. Karan
Yeah.
Menon.
We had him on the
We had him on the podcast,
Yeah.
and he looks like similar to me. I was like, he's like same age,
Oh,
same
yeah.
grade, and he was making all these videos, and I was like, oh my god, bro, this guy's doing it.
Yeah.
I can do it too. And that's
yeah,
not
yeah.
a dig at him. That was just like, wow, like he's
No, it's
doing
true.
it.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
putting in the time to do stand up and making these skits. And so that was one of the reasons where I was like, okay, maybe this is something I can do. So I started writing stuff
Mm-hmm.
for a year. And then the second thing that happened was you took me to a stand-up show. My first ever time seeing stand-up was at
Yeah.
this outdoorsy place
Yeah.
in West Hollywood. Remember that
Yeah.
that restaurant slash
Mama Shelter.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw these comedians, and a lot of them were bombing, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, bro, what the hell? Like, I can do better than that. Every
Yeah.
comedian, but I've heard so many comedians say this. They go to a stand-up comedy show, they see a bunch of new comics bomb, and they're like, yo, I'm better than this. So
Right.
that was the second reason.
Okay.
The third reason was somebody that I liked,
Uh-huh.
somebody that I liked told me, I shared with them, yo, I want to pursue stand-up comedy.
Uh-huh.
And this person told me,
Really?
you're not funny, you're corny. you're corny. And I was like, okay, game over. I'm doing stand-up comedy. Like, that was
Really?
the line that I was like,
Oh,
all
I'm
right,
doing it.
I'm doing stand-up comedy. Like, you best believe I'm not corny. And
Okay.
ever since then, I've been trying to prove this person wrong. I'm not corny.
Okay.
So those were the three main reasons
Gotcha.
why.
Okay, then I was completely wrong. I thought I was gonna do some correlation, but I thought the first time you did it was in direct correlation to filmmaking and acting to be more comfortable on stage.
That's the fourth reason, I guess.
Okay.
So I pursued the fourth reason why is I saw an opportunity to grow just creatively through writing and like public speaking ability on stage. So that was the fourth reason.
Okay,
but those were
four.
Those were it's the four reasons. All kind of like
well,
combed into existence.
those kind of go into this correlation. So my point was in this, like in asking this question, was comedy was a result of starting acting and doing this, right? Meeting Kern, doing all this stuff, right? People telling you things, which a lot of this stuff wouldn't have happened if you weren't at USC, right? You wouldn't have met Kern. You wouldn't have gone into acting. You wouldn't have met that person that told you.
Well, I
that.
didn't even know Kern personally. I
right,
just
but
saw
at
stuff.
USC
Yeah,
though, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you
Eventually got
started
to know him,
acting. You started meeting these people because you were at USC, and in high school, that person that you were got you to that position.
Yeah.
So if you knew stand up when you were 16, you started doing it for 2 years till you're 18, probably wouldn't have been there. You probably wouldn't have been in that position to even know about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, everything. I feel like
It
God.
happens for a reason, dude.
I think God really is the best of writers, and you know, like everything happens in your life for a certain reason, and your job just you have one job: embrace it, embrace it, and embrace it. Embrace it and make the most of it.
Right.
Like just recognize, yo, this is happening for a reason.
Yeah.
Let me just go with the flow, which is a lesson I learned in Costa Rica. Go with the flow. Remember the guys were always used to tell us, go with the flow, go with the flow.
Oh man.
Yeah. What's so the advice I forgot, what would you say to your 36-year-old self? Don't be comfortable.
Don't be comfortable.
And the 16-year-olds, same thing.
No, 16-year-old self was don't be so arrogant, I think.
Don't be arrogant. Don't be comfortable. To my, few 10 years from now, like 33, 34, advice that I would give to myself in my 30s.
Yeah.
I don't know, actually, bro. I don't know. Like, how do I even give I would say
something, bro. There's got to be something.
Honestly, I don't know, bro. This is actually somebody introduced me to this. Somebody told me that there's a website out there, and I looked into this. It's called Future Me or something along those lines, where you can write letters to your future self.
Okay.
You can write letters to your future self, and you can like literally just write a letter and you schedule the email, and it'll deliver it to you in your inbox in like a year or 2 years. You get to schedule it, and the whole idea behind it is you kind of forget about it, right? And then you randomly the email shows up in your inbox one day. And you're like, whoa, okay, this is a letter to your future self.
That's insane.
I think I did it. I think I did like one letter to my future self. I'm curious to like go and read back on it. I think I wrote to myself. Yeah, I actually wrote it to somebody. I wrote it to somebody as well.
And you sent it?
I sent it like a letter to their future self. Like I told this person I did that, but I just think it's interesting.
Like a friend, or
right? Like like a friend, like writing a letter to your future self. But my point is, I don't know what advice I would give to myself 10 years from now, bro. That's like a very scary thing to think about because I don't know. You said to not be comfortable. I think one thing I would say is learn. Hopefully, I'm assuming I'm a father in my 30s and a husband. So I would say don't forget the bigger picture, that it's not about you anymore. Your 20s were the time that was really about you. Now that you have kids and a wife, you're living for them.
I see.
And as a man, you got to admit that. Like, that's what I would say to my future self in my 30s. Because your 20s, truly, dedicated to yourself, your time, do whatever. But after that time, like you said to those homeless people, right? Like, after this window of time, you have to leave the shelter and find a job. So for me, like, after this window of my 20s, in my 30s, I have to be cognizant that my life now is for the family and to uplift my family. And that is the primary responsibility.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I think you can still figure it out, though. I think you can still do things and enjoy life.
Yeah, you
don't
can
have
still
to-
do it.
You're
Yeah.
not like a slave to your family.
Well, a lot of people become that, and not.
That's the problem, though. 'Cause
Yeah.
you allow yourself to.
Well, it's not even allowed. Just circumstances. Whereas I wouldn't say slave, but you become what your family is in a way because like circumstances. Something medical condition could happen to one of your kids, God forbid,
Yeah.
or your wife, and
Yeah.
you're not a slave. You're just doing your job as a father or a husband.
Yeah, true. Sometimes it has to happen.
Life throws like
Yeah,
curveballs at
curveballs.
you, bro.
You're
You
right.
don't know what's gonna happen. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Have you ever written a letter to your future self?
I've done video journals.
To your future self?
No, but I'm like kind of like that was the point of it.
Like looking back, you would look
Yeah.
at it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool. I've
I
never
haven't
done
done
a
that
video journal.
You haven't done that?
A video journal? No.
Yeah.
I've journaled a lot, but not.
Yeah. I've done like probably 5. I haven't done in years though, probably 2 years.
Did you like making those video journals?
Fuck, man. Sometimes you can roll on and on and on. Like one of them.
Who
was
are
like
you
an hour.
talking to?
Just
Your future
myself.
self?
Just myself, just talking. Because sometimes, bro, it's easier to be in your own room or like be in your own space and talk about things when somebody else is not there. Because like you could be very comfortable with somebody, right? Like you're very comfortable with your family. I'm very comfortable with my family or my girlfriend. But you still try to structure your sentences certain ways so they don't have a certain perspective or perception of you. Does that make sense? So when you're by yourself, you can just ramble. And I don't have to be like earlier. I had to create a framework for this like my solution to homelessness, right? Because somebody's gonna have a certain perception of it.
Yeah.
I don't have to do that. I can just go, and I can just talk.
You're just saying therapy just to yourself.
Basically, yeah.
Therapy where your phone is your therapist.
Yeah. Even with therapists, man.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. Yeah, that's what you're saying
Yeah.
though. You're like even then you are like conscious of how this therapist perceives you.
100%.
So you're saying your form of therapy for yourself is just talking to yourself on the phone.
Yeah.
Because the phone ain't judging you.
100%.
Only Mark Zuckerberg is.
Only Marky. Marky Mark. No, Mark can't see shit.
I mean, you don't know, man. Imagine he has like, because on Instagram you give permission to your camera and phone.
True.
Technically, they can tap in because they have the
I
permission.
mean, it's
to.
deleted on my camera. It's on my drive.
You should try writing a letter to your future self.
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, email. Use that website. We'll plug it in whatever.
I'm gonna send that to future people too.
Really?
That's interesting.
Really? Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm curious to see who yours is.
Yeah, it's
your future
interesting,
person.
man. Yeah. All right. Well,
Wow.
on that note, I think that was a solid conversation.
Good pod.
I didn't know you worked at a homeless shelter at all. Like I swear, I didn't know it.
Really?
I did not know
Yeah.
this. This is something. 6
Crazy.
months.
6 months, bro.
6 months.
Yeah.
You put in 8-hour days, right?
No, like 4 hours each time I went.
That's good.
Yeah.
So we'll have like proper experts talk to us about homeless people, and I'm glad you have some experience because that'll give us some firsthand, foundation to go off on.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah. Take everything this guy said with a grain of salt, though, about homeless people.
No, take it as is. This is my 23-year-old self saying this right now. I'm not saying when I'm 30 I'm still gonna believe this, or when I'm 40 I'm still gonna believe this. But the experiences that have built me to Matt Gutierrez at 23, that's just what it is.
Well, I guess that's a good note. That's a perfect note to end the podcast on.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.